You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Welcome to a special on-the-road edition of the Wrestling Outsiders Podcast. I am Emerson Witner, being broadcast tonight not just through WrestlingOutsiders.com, but also AngryMarks.com. I am in Boston, site of last night's TLC show, and of course, I went to the show. I'm here to talk about it, and let's get into it. First of all, if you don't know, go to WrestlingOutsiders.com. Free audio, a minimum 5 days a week. Alright, so getting on to TLC, which was a really good show. I do apologize with how my voice may be coming across. I've come down with a pretty wicked cold. I've been in Massachusetts long enough that I now use the word wicked. Started with the pre-show match, Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks. A lot of the crowd didn't know this was going to be the pre-show match, and in fact, most of the pre-show, they were chanting for Sasha. Before the match, Team Bad sang their rendition of the 12 Days of Christmas, which died a horrible death because Tamina can't hold a tune. But other than that, the match itself was good. If you ignore that they had a 4-star match at TakeOver 6 months ago, it was good, and the fans were pretty into it. Sasha won with the backstabber into the bank statement, and that was that. The pay-per-view itself opened with literally the only match I would tell Stevie J, our fearless leader at Angry Marks, to go back and listen to, or go back and watch. New Day, Usos, Lucha Dragons, and a triangle ladder match for the tag team titles. Just an insane match. I doubt I will ever remember half the spots they did, but it was just an amazing spectacle by all 6 men, and Xavier Woods did his little bit at the end there. Throughout the match, among other things, at one point, Kalisto and Jimmy Uso were on top of the ladder in the middle of the ring. They had a ladder bridge set up against the ropes, and you could see what was happening, but it was still amazing as Kalisto gave Jimmy Uso the Salida del Sol off the top of the ladder through the ladder bridge, and it was just crazy. Went almost 20 minutes. Everyone did everything you could ever think of. The finish saw Kalisto climbing, nobody within a mile of him. Xavier Woods, who was doing commentary, got up, threw his trombone at Kalisto, which the fans popped for. New Day climbed up, retained the belts. I want to point out right now, the crowd was mostly awesome. I don't know how it came across on TV, because at least the section I was sitting in was really loud the whole night. But even though I could tell you my section was loud, I was looking around a lot and saw a lot of other sections sitting on their hands. So, I don't know how it came across, but live it was crazy. I do want to say one thing. People in Boston, they don't know how to get their chants together. It's like the top half of the arena and the bottom half of the arena were never in sync the whole night, including during this match when they were chanting, "This is awesome," and they could not sync up their chants at all. You would think that's a pretty easy chant to sync up. If you're behind, you just pause for a second and catch up. Nope, not at all. We got the Ryback versus Rusev. Not only was this a scheduled match, it had a pre-match video package. I was shocked. The fans were really into the entrances. And once the match started, for the most part, there was a lot of noise, but it wasn't noise directed towards the match. There was a lot of people talking amongst themselves, chanting for the Patriots, among other things. Let's see here. It's funny that fans, at least in my section, were chanting boring a minute into the match, but it wasn't that bad. It was the worst match of the night, but it still wasn't that bad. The finish saw Ryback get Rusev up for the shell shock. Rusev got out of it. I think he was supposed to hit the super kick, but it looked more like he hit Ryback with Stratisfaction and put him in the Accolade. Rusev passed out. They did a spot at one point. They were all outside the ring near Lana, where Lana went to hit Ryback in the back when Rusev shoved Ryback, and he sort of bumped into Lana, and Lana fell over, which is how it all went down there. They did a backstage promo with Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, vowing to both win their championships tonight and both stand tall when the night is over. And going in, I was predicting all heel victories, so I felt really bad for both of them. Up next, a WrestleMania World Title rematch. Excuse me. Sorry about that. A WrestleMania World Title rematch. Alberto Del Rio versus Jack Swagger for the U.S. title in the chairs match. I bet most of you listening to this don't even remember that it was just 2 years ago that these two were wrestling for the world title in front of 80,000 people at WrestleMania. This was a good match, mostly because Jack Swagger only ever gets pushed for 1 month every year, and this was the 1 month that they chose to push him in. So Swagger was doing his best. 3 times he attempted his running Vader bomb. Twice it got broken up. The first time he got a chair to the throat. The second time, I believe Del Rio kicked him in the mush. Well, Del Rio went to kick him in the mush, but Swagger locked on the ankle lock. And the third time he hit it for a near fall. But Del Rio came back, hit the double foot stomp. What had happened was, instead of the normal shittiness where Del Rio goes to the top rope and his opponent goes up for a superplex, instead Swagger ended up straddled in the ropes, and Del Rio hit him with a chair a few times. So he dove off, gave him the double foot stomp, and won. And there was a bunch of chairs already on the mat, so Swagger fell 2 feet into all those chairs. ECW Originals versus the Wyatts in a elimination tables match. Eric Rowan was the only Wyatt eliminated. I don't know what that says about Eric Rowan, that they trusted Braun Strowman out there for an entire match and not Rowan. This was not the night for tables because 2 of them broke without even trying. It reminded me I was watching a WCW show and there was, I think it was Terry Funk versus Crowbar. They pulled out a gimmick table that was so gimmicked it was wobbling while they were setting it up. But in this one, it was just Rowan got put through first with a 3D, and then they went through the ECW Originals one at a time. It came down to Bubba Ray Dudley. Bubba pulled out the lighter fluid, and the place went nuts thinking they were going to have a flaming table. It did not happen. Instead, before he could pull out a match, Harper kicked him in the yap. Strowman picked him up and gave him a spine buster through a table, and the 3 Wyatts were standing tall at the end. And it was, I should let you know, as you could probably expect given the people involved, there was a lot of weapon shots. It was a hardcore match basically, disguised as a tables match. Kevin Ambrose, wow, that's a new one. Kevin Owens versus Dean Ambrose for the Intercontinental title. Only real babyface win of the night, and the fans went batshit crazy. I think it's because, like I said, there was only one babyface win, because, Sasha Banks is a babyface in Boston, but she's technically a heel. But he's the only babyface that won. Dean Ambrose loses literally all the time. Honestly, I'm having trouble remembering the last time he won a somewhat important match. And when he won, everyone just lost their crap. Nice standing ovation. Ambrose pushed it like it was, a whole new world has opened up for him. Like I said, no one was expecting it. And they even did a teased finish where Ambrose hit the Dirty Deeds to play off last month's finish where he jumped out of the pop-up powerbomb, but Owens just got his hand on the ropes for the break, which made you think, okay, Owens is going to win. Owens schoolboyed him, grabbed some jeans because he doesn't wear tights. But Ambrose kicked out. And finally, Ambrose won. And Owens, this was like the perfect reaction on both ends. Ambrose celebrated well into the night, while Owens was in a state of shock and denial that he lost the title. Charlotte versus Paige for the Divas title. Charlotte had her father, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, in her corner. This was kind of the match where I started zoning out a little bit, but it picked up towards the end. Paige used the figure 4 at one point, and the fans went nuts. At one point, she hit the Rampage, and it's actually hilarious. She hit the Rampage near the ropes and hooked the leg closer to the ropes, so Ric Flair ran over and had to pretty much drag the pile towards the rope so he can get the other leg onto it. Excuse me one second. And while this was happening, and while Paige was yelling at Rick, and Rick was yelling at Paige, and Paige was yelling at the referee, Charlotte took the padding off the turnbuckle, and when Paige turned around, she pulled Paige's head right into the exposed metal for the pin. I should point out that we didn't see Charlotte undo the turnbuckle, so all we saw was Paige go headfirst into the turnbuckle and they get pinned. It wasn't until after they counted the 3 they actually looked and said, oh, look, the turnbuckle's been exposed. Backstage, Rick and Charlotte were celebrating. Went up, walked Becky Lynch. Lynch didn't know what on earth was going on. Charlotte invited her to go out and party, and so they went to do the pinky swear, but instead of Becky going in for the pinky swear, Rick stole it, and they walked away, leaving Becky Lynch confused. Main event time, Sheamus, Roman Reigns, TLC match for the title. It was the exact finish that I think everyone was expecting. Literally, if you didn't see what happened, and you were to guess right now what the finish of Sheamus and Roman Reigns in the TLC match was, I guarantee you would have predicted correctly. This was a little slower than most TLC matches, and for a little bit, the fans took a little bit getting into it, which led to my other favorite chant of the night, where half the crowd was chanting, "We want Cena," and then of the other half that didn't want Cena, about half of them were chanting, "No, we don't," and about half of them were chanting, "Cena sucks." So like I said, it's Boston. We need to coordinate our chants a little better here. It was a real physical match, slow at spots, but it really picked up. The fans were about 50-50 Roman Reigns for most of the match. And towards the end, when Roman got his final hope spot, climbing the ladder, it was a good 75% pro-Roman. I'm sitting there, I can hear boos, but it was getting more and more pro-Roman. And so at one point, they set up a ladder bridge between the announce table and the ring, which I think Sheamus sets up in literally every single ladder match he's ever in. But this time, Roman picked him up for a Samoan drop and fell over with the Samoan drop through the ladder bridge. Sheamus is out. Roman just 10 feet away from immortality again, climbing the ladder. So close. He's got his hand on the belt. And here comes Alberto Del Rio and Rusev to beat the crap out of him. And so Roman's fighting them off. He's literally fighting off all 3. He fights off Rusev. He fights off Del Rio, beats them up, sends them packing, and then turns around to the bro kick from hell, and he falls out of the ring. Sheamus takes the longest time ever to climb the ladder, and to the point that people figured that it wasn't over yet because he was taking so ungodly long to climb that ladder. But he climbed it up. He got the belt down. Sheamus is still your champion. This is where I left, because I feel like crap and I wanted to get back to the hotel and do this here podcast you're listening to. However, after the match, Roman Reigns went berserk on everyone. He beat the crap out of all three heels, which led, I guess, to the only appearance of Triple H and Stephanie all night. They came out while Reigns continued to beat the crap out of Sheamus. Hunter and Stephanie told him to knock it off. Hunter was on the apron, so Reigns gave him a Superman punch, beat Hunter with a chair over and over again. And then at one point, Reigns gave him a power bomb onto a table, and then he elbow dropped him through a table. And the fans, I guess, at that point I was gone, and at least another 1,000 people were gone because I was walking away with them. But I guess who was left were chanting, "Thank you, Roman." Alright, so that's it. I apologize for this incredibly short edition. I want to let you know the show was really good. Except for that first ladder match, pretty much everything else you really can skip. But if you invested 3 hours of your life into it, you weren't disappointed. Okay? But I can understand why a lot of people didn't want to watch the show. The last show in Boston I went to see was Survivor Series 2013, which, if you don't recall, was Randy Orton versus The Big Show, the Ryback versus Mark Henry, and the 7 or 8 people in Total Divas versus the 7 or 8 non-Total Divas in WWE. It was just a horrendous show. This was so much better. So yeah, if you got 3 hours, or at the very least got half an hour, watch that opening triple threat ladder match. Enjoy it. Have fun. And while you're at it, by the way, later on today, I'll be posting episode 2 of MMA Monday, looking at UFC number 2. That is exclusively on WrestlingOutsiders.com. Until then, thank you for listening, and have a great night.